Welcome to Focus on Liberia. Our topic today is a continuation of our Business and Economic Forum. And we're glad to have all our panels here. We have Mr. Alex Chu-Chu Jones. Mr. Jones, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
As always, thank you, Mr. Ja. It's a pleasure to be here.
We also have Mr. Depu Zuo. These are our regular panelists on Economic Forum. Mr. Zuo, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, and good evening to our listener out there in Liberia and also in the United States.
Mr. Another regular panelist, Mr. William will be joining us shortly. Today we have a new panelist on the forum, Mr. Dave Ja. Dave, welcome to Focus on Liberia, and Dave is joining us from Philadelphia via phone. Dave, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be around.
All right. And for more on Dave, I will pass it first to Alex to introduce our new panelists and what is role on the Business and Economic Forum. Alex, is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Ja. Okay, first of all, true disclosure, Mr. Dave Ja is the brother of Mr. Dennis Ja. And I just realized that recently as I got to know him and spoken with him. And he's a very sound intellectual. And I was very pleased and I invited him to join the forum. Although Dave is not an economist or financial analyst, but he's in the psychology field, current PhD student. So I figure that era economic is psychological economics, and I feel that he can input a lot to the show. He can bring a lot of input to the show on the state of minds of Liberians when it comes to economics and it comes to the current being, how they vote, why they select one person or another. Is it just a regular phenomenon, or is it something that is psychological? So that's what Mr. Ja will be joining us, not just today, but over the subsequent weeks and months, hopefully, if time permits. And he will be bringing that perspective to our forum. So Mr. Ja, again, it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the Business and Economic Forum of Africa.
Thanks, Alex.
And welcome again, Dave, to Focus on Liberia. This is your second time appearing on the show. The first time was when you discussed psychology. William, are you there? Our regular panelist, Mr. William King, is going to be joining us in a minute. William, welcome to Focus on Liberia. So for our discussion today, we are continuing, but before we even start the discussion, there are some current issues going on in Monrovia, a lot of things happening, but we're going to continue. Last week, we had Mr. Amit Madar, who was with us here when we discussed, again, diaspora investment with specific emphasis on tourism, the tourism sector. Today, we are back to continue that series. And every day when we come on the Business and Economic Forum, we have one person who chairs the forum. This afternoon, the forum will be chaired by our financial analyst, Mr. Alex Chu-Chu Jones, who's going to take it away from here. Alex, once again, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ja. So again, just to recap, last week was a very sensational discussion with Mr. Ahmed Madar, a business owner, a CEO of one of the most, I would say, prestigious hotel establishments in Liberia. Again, Mr. Zuo was kind enough to Mr. Zuo to invite him. He spent almost 2 hours giving us all the details on, how the hotels are being run, the challenges, the prospects, the opportunities. So it was a very, very exciting time. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch that video, please go back in the catalog and on YouTube or on Facebook and watch it. I promise you'll be enlightened. So again, today we'll continue with our series of the Liberian diaspora investment. And then also we'll be taking into consideration some of the current business events that is going on. Again, our goal here is to educate, to inform, to bring an economic dialogue. Often we find our discussion very contentious or political. This is not a place for it. We're here to discuss economics. We're here to discuss business, Liberian business innovation. We're here to discuss ideas. We're here to dispose ideas that's not working. So again, if that's what you're interested in, you're in the right place. So please call, text in your comments, as we have three exciting people who will be be posting some questions to them, and will be giving us the input on the current Liberian situation. They will also be telling us about their views on what's the best way to go forward for our country. So I want to start with Mr. Zuo. Mr. Zuo is a permanent Liberian economist and also instructor at some of the universities in Liberia, currently in the United States. Mr. Zuo, um, first, I would like you to give me your views on last week's topic concerning the tourism industry. What do you take from all of that discussion, and how can we move forward?
Thank you very much. I think last week's topic was very interesting for the fact that Liberia has actually been rated as #1 country that hosts stranger. And for that reason, we think that it will give opportunity for the country to actually receive people, and people will be in the position to travel, and that's part of tourism. And I guess Mr. Moda was very much informed about the sector, and he was able to analyze it. I think it was very fruitful. One thing I want to say here is that the essence of this exercise is to encourage Liberians to become economically sensitive, and economic sensitivity to be a part of that. So with the opportunity in the tourism sector, no one can do it better than Liberians. So we need to have some off-takers, Liberians off-takers in the tourism sector, like the way you have Boda. You need to have other Liberians who have the capital to go and invest. It takes little amount to start with a Liberian investment in terms of tourism. We have a lot of beaches in Liberia. We have a lot of forest reserve. We also have a lot of attraction area, waterfall around the country that someone can use to actually create that natural habitat for people to be there. So I think it's a very good thing. I want to encourage Liberians to go into that sector.
Okay, Mr. Zuo, a follow-up question before I go to Mr. Dave Ja. One of the challenges that Mr. Modal stated was that he doesn't have any investors. He said, whether Liberians or otherwise, he's built this hotel on his own. He gave a story of where he had to sleep in restrooms, truck stops in the United States, and he's built a fabulous establishment. What would be, as we discuss the diaspora investment, what would be some of your ideas or your advice for Liberians? And follow-up question to that is that most Liberians don't support Liberians establishments. So we go to Liberia and we go to Royal Hotel. Royal Hotel is not owned by a Liberian person. Not saying that you have a free choice to go to whatever hotel you want to, but here's a Liberian young man who's putting his money, putting his country first, and he's out there struggling, trying to maintain this. What can we do? And as you see, I'm showing on the screen as well, his hotel, highlights from his hotel. What do you gather from the discussion last week, and how can we support such an establishment?
Thank you. Mr. Moda has been a very good friend from college. I know one thing that I have told him before, and I want to repeat here, is that many Liberians go into business on their own. He struggled, but what's the opportunity that he has in terms of selling shares and people trying to buy shares in the business? These are the way to actually ensure that he has partner. And besides that, it has to be a program, a business that he let the public know that, look, as of now, I'm looking for partner. Having done that, I believe there will be more Liberians going into that. One thing that I know is that he himself mentioned is that Liberians are difficult to work together. If a Lebanese man come, he will sell in one Lebanese business store until he starts on his own. And from there, he will bring another brother who will be there. So Liberians need to hold together. And this, you look at economic history, there's something like economic nationalism that actually made Europe powerful. It's about time that Liberians become economic nationalists. in the sense that what do I really own in terms of assets in my own land? If I've acquired assets in America, do I share with my people back home? Should I invest there so that you can get whatever wealth here and take it home and say we are economic nationalists? I think that's one of the things we need to look at. Those are some of the paradigm shifts that we need to have as Liberians. That you can invest in the bank in Liberia. You can also have part of your saving in Liberia and stay find a comfort zone in terms of how you can invest. And the bank can give you loan once you have account in Liberia. So these are some of the opportunities. If the environment actually is conducive for us as Liberians in the diaspora, those are some of the best approaches that we have to adopt.
All right. Let's get this thing on a roll. Let's jump straight into the fire. Let's talk about this thing. Is very serious. Okay. I mean, we're in trouble here. So let's get to where.
Mr. Williams, please introduce yourself.
So we got serious issues right now. So one of the things that we're not talking about, if we look deep into this tourism thing, right? Right now, if I want to go to Kenya, round trip ticket from Los Angeles is $750. To Liberia right now, my round trip ticket is $1,500 and I got to get a visa. So what I'm talking about buying power. I'm talking about the market that we are targeting. Liberians don't make enough money to go sit down at the beach and spend a lot of money. The other thing we have that's nobody is talking about is that there's no structure in Liberia for me to go invest. Yeah, in America, if I want to invest in tourism, I just go find a company on the stock market and I buy their stock. I ain't got to know the CEO personally. He doesn't have to know my first name. Right now in our beautiful Liberia, we have nothing like that. There's zero. So even if I want to go to invest in, with that company, my thinking is that, man, is this guy generating enough business for me to invest in? How big is the market pool? And right now, the way things are looking, he's very intelligent, very smart. He's business savvy. But the marketplace right now is small. There's nothing there for all of us. So although he's good, he's an astute businessman, the weight that is on his shoulder right now is not something that will allow me to say I will put my money in there because it's too much to kind of overcome. So let's get serious about this. We're in trouble.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Again, Mr. Williams will be joining us through the video.
I already joined you.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Mr. Williams is our regular panelist, and of course, we'll be hearing from him periodically. So let me go to Mr. Dave Jai. Mr. Dave Jai is a psychologist. So he has a lot of knowledge in how the brain works, including how Liberians think. So, Mr. Jai, why do you think, yes, the Liberians, we all complain, including myself, Liberians don't work together, we're not serious, we don't want to do business in our own country. 11 people come to Liberia, they take our land, they take our land, but our businesses, they take our women. What's wrong with us? Can you give us a little bit of insight on how Liberians are thinking in terms of how can we progress?
Thanks, Alex, and thanks to focus on Africa for. Oh, did I say focus on Africa?
Yes,
focus on Liberia for letting me to be on this. Just to give my own views about the psychology of economics to some extent, or the impact of economic problems on people behaviors has not only in their behavior, their thought process, their behavior, their choice making, and their motivation. To speak about why Liberians think the way they do, that's a very difficult question because in the field of psychology, I can't even make speculations or make diagnosis of anybody don't speak with them, if I don't meet with them, if I don't do an extensive assessment with that person. But having said that, I think when it comes to economics, where I think it's about goods, services, how to improve the quality of people's lives.
Okay.
I
So
believe it's the fundamental issue in Liberia because when the economic system goes bad, people's aptitude goes bad as well. If economics go bad, people's behaviors go bad. If
okay.
economics go bad, people's thought process goes bad as well. I Before I get it, let me tell you about a research that was conducted. In fact, there is an understanding that adverse condition or poverty, the lack of resources, has direct correlation with people's academic performance. It has direct correlation with their social interactions. So maybe if I can speculate, when people are under pressure, when people are hungry, when people don't have their basic needs met, it is difficult for them to think objectively. It is difficult for them to make rational decisions. So they, their decision making is based on, to a large extent, on emotions, on group thinking, and other factors that most people will not even base their decision on if they were under very normal, pleasant conditions. So we need to take those things into
So give me an example of
consideration
that.
as well.
So are you
Mhm.
saying that because of the economy in Liberia that people vote, for an example, because of the economic constraints rather than because of the intellect? So I'll vote for Joshua simply because I'm suffering, or I will vote for Bronskin simply because I'm suffering, and not because this person I truly believe in this person's vision. I've read the vision, I understand where they're going, I know the character. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, it's difficult to make that judgment. I don't want to put the Liberian people in one basket and say this is the basis on which they made their decision. But what I can say is that when people are under pressure, when people are frustrated, when they are angry, it is difficult for them to be rational in their decision making process. And also, it's about their expectations. Okay, it's about their expectations. What is it in this decision I'm going to make? What is there for me? And for the most part, people do not think, they think about the immediate needs. How do they address their current needs? It's not about rationalizing about the future, thinking about the future, trying to uh, predict as to what is going to happen within the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. It's about now. It's about the here
No.
and now. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Job. Let me bring Dennis in. Dennis have had a lot of experience in terms of dealing with Liberians. He's building a media platform. I'm sure he had a lot of experiences. People call in, people call off. Mr. Dennis, what Dave just said, how can you relate to that in terms of your own personal relationship with Liberians, whether through Liberian organization or Liberian community, Liberian churches? Is there any validity in what he's just saying?
And yeah, that's true. And I don't think that that is unique to Liberians. People all over the world, first of all, as he correctly said, if you're under pressure, if you even in our own homes, if you are angry, you can make, if you make any decision in anger, that's something that you're going to regret. Even those of us who go to church, the Bible tell you, say, don't let the sun go down on your wrath, because if you are angry for too long, whatever you do within that time is not going to be a pretty decision. So Liberians, like anybody else, have needs. You have economic needs, you have social needs, you have all things that prioritized. So when you feel that those things are not happening, when you feel that you need something and this is the person who's going to give it to you, that's the person you go to. And then when you are angry or when you are frustrated because of certain economic conditions, that's how you're going to behave. And for Liberia, what makes us a little different is the impact of the war. The war has conditioned us in a certain way. Say, for instance, people born after 1990. People, we all, for most of us who went through the war, we have come up with some conditions or post-traumatic stuff that have not been treated. And so sometimes we tend to behave that way. Right now, there's a lot of fight. Everything is political because we're not maybe exposed to a lot of things that are working correctly. And so all we know is some form of chaos or some form of fight to get what you want. I think that's the major thing that I see happening.
Okay, let me go to Mr. Zua. Mr. Zua, you work in Liberia. You taught at many universities there. So you know the students, you know the impact, you know the culture, you know the academic condition. Would you say that Liberians are going through undue stress economically at this time? And if so, at what level compared to what?
In terms of economic stress, is that why you? Well,
yes.
Let me go back to what the question earlier before I come to that point. In the sense that I think what is important is to look at why Liberians don't want to work together in terms of making business. There's something in modern business called for merger and acquisition. People who have more capital will merge with those who don't have enough and acquire other business in a sense to make it develop. So Liberians need to learn that, and as a good practice to know, first of all, collaboration and all of these things, and it brings about competitiveness and all the opportunity to make your product more productive and enhance your productivity. Now, when it comes to the economy in terms of the stress, realistically, you will say yes, because majority of the citizens don't have disposable income. They don't have work. Say that they have work. So as a result, the dependency rate is very high, and people will now depend on one employed person. That itself is something that, since the Civil War, has been the challenge for Liberians. So, like the psychologist said, that your thinking will be really much different when you are under stress, especially when you don't have income. Income insecurity is something dangerous. It leads to many things unless you have some strong value, strong social network, strong social support that keep you up. But Liberia is under economic stress currently as we speak.
Okay. So let me bring Mr. Williams in.
Yes, I'm here. I want to respond to that.
Okay, sure. So let me ask my question, and then you can add whatever. Again, we're going to be 1 to 2 minutes, so if you can keep it, that way many people can get a chance. And so, Mr. Williams, so is it clear by all indication in Liberia that the number one problem, or at least the top 5 problems, people are economically constrained? Do anyone on this platform disagree with that, including you?
No, I agree that people are economically constrained. However, I think the main issue here is, are we providing to our people the means, the vehicle to get out of that economic constrained situation? And I do not think we are. Look, someone in Liberia have money, they have lots of money, they open up their own company. Someone in Liberia who doesn't have no money at all is dead broke. They're just stuck. They have no way of economic mobility. They're just stuck. Why is that? Well, it's because that little $2 or $1 or $5 they have to invest, they can't invest it anywhere. Why can they not invest it anywhere? Because there's no structure. So to get into the same little small little market thing, that right now prevents us from getting to the capital markets. So I think that we have a huge issue where we don't have a vehicle, we don't have a vessel through which people can move up. You look at it in the US, if you buy one stock, maybe Apple or Amazon or Google, if you bought it 20 years ago, what is it worth today? So you're asking somebody right now to put in $900, $600, $700 to buy one share. Well, 20 years ago when Amazon started, it wasn't that high. So if you are not a wealthy person, you are a poor person, you at least had the option. You at least had the option to buy 1 or 2 or 3 shares and sit down and wait. And now it could be worth how many times more? So even if somebody didn't have it in Liberia, there's nothing there to move them up. So I think you recognize the issue, but the main thing is that we don't really have a viable solution right now. Thank you.
Okay, so the professional psychologist tells us that people react irrationally when there's problems, when there's trauma, when there's. Dennis reiterated that point that it's not just restricted to Liberia. Zozo agreed that in Liberia there's serious levels of economic, problems or economic shortfall. And then Mr. Williams again emphasized option. We don't have any option. I'm going to go back to our psychologist. All right. If this is the case where you have 4 people all agree on the same thing, including any other Liberian who wants to disagree with this, the Liberia economics, then let it call, let them text us, let them let us know. Now, why isn't this the center of our political and social debate? Why am I not hearing this discussion on the economy? Why do I not hear from Cummings on the economy or solution? Why do I not hear from Ben Nahiri? Why do I hear from Joseph Walker, from George Weah? Why am I hearing everything else, including in America, rather than what we all here have come out to a consensus of? Look, it's the economy. People are suffering. People don't have. Maybe you could help us. What's the problem? Why it's not a national agenda?
Well, okay. Thanks again. And even to emphasize that, Alex, what I also want to emphasize is, and for policymakers to even take into consideration. Is that my phone?
Yeah, everybody can mute their phone if you're not speaking. Okay.
Is
great.
this? Okay. There is evidence that we all have some degree of intelligence, which is influenced by biology. But there is also evidence that poverty, for kids who are in poverty, who has these adverse conditions that they are facing in their lives, their intelligence quotient, their IQ to some extent, when they are impoverished, is somehow reduced. Okay. And then also adversity in people's lives impact their future, impact them in a way that there is association between poverty and diseases in later life. So if we are interested in securing the future of a nation, the economic status of that country has to improve. If we want to extend the lifespan of people, if we want our kids, our children in Liberia to compete with students from across the world, and expect them to be in poverty and then compete to the highest level, that is going to be impossible. So whatever decision that is made economically, financially, now is going to impact the future of the country. So if those things are not taken care of, don't think that you're going to have a better future. Because if you want productive citizenry, you need intelligence, you need people who have some standard of education. Having said that, why the politicians are not discussing those things, I don't know. Maybe I can speculate, but maybe they don't have a reason to do that. They don't have incentive to do that because the system is it doesn't it doesn't reward people because of their performance, because of what they put out, what they are able to produce. And the system is just basically based on maybe who you are, the person with the loudest mouth. So what they do, they take advantage of the impoverishment of the people. They take advantage of the people's inability to rationalize things, and they just continue to arouse them, to make them so animated to the point that they can't rationally think. So they're not going to present issues that they can really discuss and rationalize, but what they're going to do is they will present things that will just elevate them, that will incite them, that will make them more angry, so that they will not be able to process that, the information that they present them, so that they will not be able to make rational decisions. So they continue with that same, stirring that old hot pot, so that the Liberian people will not be able to think out squarely and say, this person has better ideas, he has a better program or whatever. So that would be my speculation, because they want to keep the status quo in place.
And I would give an example. If you turn on any day to YouTube and you hear a host of different analysts and Liberia pundits and journalists or wannabe journalists, whatever. But I have yet to hear anybody discussing economics. When I mean economics, not national economics, just simple economics. Whether in the interior, how can we grow cocoa and coffee and create and produce it in Liberia? But I will hear everybody talking about all the solutions in Liberia, in America, on the platforms.
And Alex,
Yes.
I have a opinion that I have an experience.
I will come to you next. I will come to you next.
It doesn't sell, okay? Anything like we were working, and then in my job, so somebody asked me, say, "Oh, which team are you rooting for?" I said, "Well, I'm only going to root for either the Patriots or this team or that team. If when I'm working too, if I have people rooting for me." So my friend said, "Well, if people are paying to come and watch you do your work, then you will make money." So what I mean is people gravitate towards something that sells, right? So if we are discussing economics and look at the people that are watching the show, but when you are discussing about the December 30th or June 7th, because these are the things that people care about now, since they are, kind of in panic mode, or they are stressed out or something. I think we all have done a poor job to redirect the thinking of the people. For instance, to what extent has Mr. Zuo been able to impress upon the minds of the people that economy is more important than politics? That if you are hungry, you can't make rational decisions. So let's emphasize that. If you are not able to even balance your book, you can't balance your life. So the politicians, they have no incentive to educate us, to make us to think rationally. They have no incentives to teach us even the Constitution. I was in Liberia when I did this book. I went to Liberia to promote it. But so I asked one of the representatives, the candidate, why is it that you are not telling the people that building roads and bridges and doing this, that's not your function. The function will be to make laws. Say, well, if I went to my village and I told the people, when you elect me, I'm going to make laws, nobody's going to vote for me. So what I tell them is, I'm going to build your roads, I'm going to build your clinic, I'm going to build your farm, and then they vote for me. So they are being incentivized. And before I end my comment, let me invite our listeners. If you're just watching us, this is focused on Liberia. This is our business and economic forum. If you want to join the discussion, please call 605-313-6004. The code is 791403, and that's posted to Facebook. If you also have question or comment, you can still post your comments to Facebook. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you very much. All right. So again, Mr. Williams, you've been very involved and engaged in setting up a diaspora fund. You push me, you push Mr. Zuo, you push many people.
Yeah.
You've been very passionate about it.
Yes.
Can you tell us today what the concept of that and how do you intend to promote this in the Liberian psyche to
Okay.
invest in that will develop Liberia?
Okay. Well, you know, something as important is that we have a very difficult time in Liberia of distinguishing politics and policies. We think they're one and the same, and they are not. They're not. So we do have a problem with that. The other thing we have is that, yes, there are good economic minds, but these economic minds always have to ask themselves the hardest question of all. Why is it if I have an idea for economy, the minute I think about the idea, the next thing is government needs to do it, or I need to go to the government to get it done. Because until we start looking at ourselves in the mirror and addressing that, why is it that we always look at it that way? We're gonna have very serious problems. The other thing is to your point, Alex, is the diaspora. I think that we as a diaspora, we should have something. And what I created is, or what I've been thinking about working with along with Alex, is a advisory, is a loans. It's called, really, we haven't figured out the full name, but it's the Lone Star Advisory and Capital Management. And basically what it is get Liberians who are passionate about Liberia to come together, create a company so that they can be partakers and stakeholders in their economy. And the way we can do it from the diaspora that's really here. The diaspora that's here have a lot of buying power. I think I went over my 2 minutes.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so I'll go back to Mr. Dave Jai again. Yeah, I like psychology. But Dennis does not know, but I read a lot of psychology. I read a lot of Eastern religion. I read Greek philosophy. I read astronomy. So I like these kinds of studies for the mind, because when you understand the man's minds, you understand everything about him. Liberians have been failing for a generation. We have not gotten it right. And to me, we keep the same approach. Elections, we produce a leader that we're excited about, and then later on, we are not excited about our leader. We're looking for another leader. Is there any theory that can explain how do people transform from one mindset to another? What will help us understand that when something is not working, we shouldn't keep investing in it? What we call in finance, you don't pump money into a dead cow. If a company is broken, I'm not going to invest in that company. So why do Liberians feel the need to keep the same approach, keep investing in the same thing, whether it's political party? I mean, that's just not my view, but those who do, why? What's the psychology behind it?
The psychology behind making the same decision over and over.
Yes, and coming up with the same failed decision, but yet still believing in that process.
Well, that's what that's how they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. You know, that's a definition of insanity to some extent. But you see, part of the problem too is when people now to think requires a lot. Okay, to plan requires an import of energy, an import of resources. So we will say that people are cognitively lazy. Okay, and that is a human tendency. As the result, we will take the route that maybe that is easier, that doesn't require a lot of energy to be expensed. That could be one reason. And also based on people's experience, when people constantly fail, it becomes difficult for them to even trust their own potential. There is something in psychology that we also call derived helplessness. When you constantly have obstacles in your life, whether based on your own creation or the creation of others, and you are constantly failing and you go through all these difficult situations, you have come to the point of deriving your own helplessness. You have come to the point of that. You have come to the conclusion that I'm helpless. There's nothing that I can do that can change my situation, and therefore I will continue to be in the state in which I am. So could be part of the Liberians' experience years after years, years of failures, of disappointment. Okay. And another way is to look at it is there is not much of a system that Liberians can point to reflect on. Because what we have seen around ourselves, what we have been conditioned is what is around us. You see, we learn from our environment, we learn from what we see around ourselves. So there's not much of a reference point that we can say, oh, this has happened in the past, and we can use this particular model that will help us move forward. All that we see around ourselves, if we have a leadership today, they will practice from the past leadership. It will be based on that experience, because there's nothing much there's not of a model that they can point to that this is what has worked in the past. So we continue in that same system over and over and over, regardless of the outcome, hoping that next week or the next time we try is going to get better. But as we look, things still don't get better. So there is a need for, for us to maybe rediscover ourselves, and take a deeper look as to why these things continue to fail and what can be done moving forward to change the trajectory in some forms. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Again, you're listening to the Business and Economic Forum for Africa, hosted by the Focus on Liberia. Our topic today is diaspora investment and current Liberian economic issues. I have with me Mr. Dave Jah, the psychologist, Mr. Depuzo, economist, and Mr. William King, an investor in real estate and community leader, including Mr. Dennis Jah, host of the host of the Focus on Liberia. Mr. Zuo, anything you want to add to that? Do you think that it's insanity for Liberians to just keep hoping and not changing their current economic or financial planning and implementation?
Yeah, but every country, first of all, has to do with the sources of a country has to do with leadership and the philosophy of the political entity or political institution that bring leaders into power. So the first thing, if you look at realistically, Liberia's own challenge have been how do we look at our own political system, the economic system, the social structure that we have. So these are things that we need to take into consideration, because realistically, the people must know the vision and they must know the direction the country is taking, and it become a part of them. Development economics is something they call attitudinal. That the attitude of the people, when you do a plan, the national plan, is you have something that the citizens be a part of it. It changes their attitude. It gives them direction. So, for example, during President Tubber's time, you have what we call high total involvement. It means that citizens should get involved with the economy. So it was more production driven. And President Doe came and said, bring revolution. So people go on the farm. So these are things that actually change the mindset and the psychology of the citizen to become more productive. So if you also think it is very much important. So the sources of any country depends on leadership and the vision of the leader and the overall, political psychology or philosophy that is in the country. So Liberia,
I would like to do I would like to do a quick follow-up because when you say leadership, there's a lot of different kinds of leadership. In America, we say business leadership, we say economic leadership, we say political leadership. In Liberia, when you say leadership, you're talking about the political party leader. So can you distinguish, does Liberians have good business and financial leaders that they can aspire to, that they can follow?
Yeah, I've said yes. Leadership is not only restricted to political leadership. There must be a national vision that leaders follow, even in the private sector. The vision of the country is to say, for example, you want to make sure that you lift people out of poverty. And in the private sector, the business owner, first of all, what he's going to be looking at is that you'll be looking at his financial goal, which is to make profit. And at the same time, he'll be considering a social goal, which is to help the people, the environment. Because where there's a fragile social environment, it also impacts his productivity or production as a businessman. So these are things that require leadership. So if you have a company, you need to know what the company is about, the objective and the vision and the mission of the company. While you are providing the services to the community, you are also focusing on how you maximize profit. So it's not only restricted to political leaders. Even churches, you see, it's one thing that you see there's a proliferation of churches across Liberia. It's one thing that you look at. What are the values that the leaders actually instill into the members? And to bring about productivity, do they tell them that your survival as a human being depends on your ability to apply your labor, to work and earn income, or they wait for someone to pray? As people go to prayer meetings thinking that manna will fall from heaven, it gives them there's a disincentive for them to even produce. So these are things that I'm talking about leadership. It has a lot to do with people who lead people.
Thank you very much. Okay, again, say it's a good time. Mr. Jad, do we have any calls or any comments that you want to?
I have a caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, Mr. Jad, this Monu from Las Vegas.
Oh, Monu Kamara?
No. Joe Monu. I've called several times, you know.
Oh, Joe Monu, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the conversation, and you're one of the problems, and I will give several instances. 75% of the Liberian economy, from what I was told, and maybe the economists on the panel knows better, is dominated by foreigners. If you look at Nigeria, only 25% of their economy, has that foreign domination. So Nigeria 75, Liberia 75, but ours is going the wrong way. Now the problem is not only the government of Liberia, but it's also the Liberian people. But let's start with the government first of all. The government has to be really serious about the concept of entrepreneurship. And the government, piggybacking on what Mr. Modat said last week, I think I caught the tail end of it. The government has to identify potential winners in the business sector and help guarantee the success of those businesses. Like for instance, Mr. Modat has a hotel. I think he has some sort of facility that provides, juice beverages and all that. The government needs to come in because that's a business with a lot of potential and guarantee bank loans from Mr. Modat with very soft, interest rates. If you understand what I'm saying, because what that's going to do, it's going to help the government with unemployment and it's going to increase the government's tax base. And that's what spot-taking governments do. Like for instance, the United States. If you read a book, there's a book by a lady called Mariana Mazzucato. It's called The Entrepreneur State. Dr. Mazzucato wrote that book. And you see pretty much all the technology companies in the United States of America. They were made possible by the U.S. government. Mr. Jai, you jump in your car, somebody give you an address, and you use what? The GPS system, right?
Yeah.
They will probably
Yeah. Okay. So basically, if I can just say this, so the point is, based on I'm just going to.
I got more to come.
Yeah, but let's give the panelists some chance to respond. I just want to make sure your question is or your comment is addressed. That you, based on last week's show, that you think the government should be more involved in providing financial loans and opportunities for Liberian businesses. Let me put it on to the panels. Let's go to Mr. Williams. What do you think about that? And then we can come back to you. But let's hear from the panelists first.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Williams, are you there? You can hang on the line. We'll come back to you, but let's give it a round to the panelists, and then they can throw in their weight on what you just said. Okay, Mr. Zuo, go ahead, Mr. Zuo, and then we'll come back to Mr. Williams or Mr. Dave Johnson.
Okay, I think one of the things that we were unfortunate to have on board the government representative, that government has regulatory role, and it has to play that in terms of private sector, investment, and especially in the tourism. And it's difficult for us to look at the way the economy is running to think that there will be finance from funding from government to say, here's the money here for tourists to go into it. The major role of government is to see how best, first of all, to create an enabling environment for people to have access to financing, like loan from commercial banks, and make sure that there are some laws that will be repealed, as we said the last time, that citizens will have opportunity to be given incentive in terms of our own laws and regulation. How much tax waiver should be given to people who invest into the sector, and in terms of the total number of employees, how much should be given them. These are things that government can do. But to say that government will be giving loan to individuals, one of the mentality across Africa is not only on Liberia, is that when government provide loan, people see it to be more like their property,
guaranteed
to pay back the loan. So I think the best thing to do is the tourism.
Yeah, let him finish. So we'll come back to you with your comments. Stay on the line. Let him finish. We'll go to a couple of people. We'll come back to you. I promise.
The tourism industry, we can say one of the commercial banks can be giving that identical responsibility and say, this is your portfolio, and central bank, they work on that and say, look, this bank is responsible for what? Lending for tourism purpose. We got a bank that is responsible for agriculture. These are things that we need to look at. That. In fact, in the banking, in the financial sector, these are things that opportunity that we need to create for Liberians. So it's two-way street. Government need to give priority to that, from startup capital for policy and strategy and regulatory role. That's fine, but I think that's what we need to be looking for. So you get involved.
Let me go to Mr. Dave Jai. Okay, the caller was just making a very interesting point. He watched the show, I'm sure, religiously, and he was saying that he thinks the Liberian government should play a more active role in providing financing. That's not the case in Liberia. Okay, again, we just established here that the economy is the problem. The jobs is the problem. Why do you think the government, or I know you can't speak for the government, but why would you think that those kinds of conduits are not provided to help boost the economy, help create more Liberian success?
Okay, this is it again. Now, I think there was a saying that, see, part of our problem also, part of the problem is that I think there was something that Martin Luther said, that if good people remain quiet, what happened? I mean, I'm just paraphrasing it. If people who are well informed, they remain quiet and wait for their term before they speak out, the bad people will continue to control the environment. So my take on that is this. the institutions or the individuals, like for instance, now I am aware based on research that poverty impact people long-term functioning. I know that when there is impoverishment in a society, it impacts the entire society, regardless of whatever leadership. So, based on my awareness, I I think I should also be able to make that new and clear to the power that be that look, your policy is a reflection of your belief system, of the direction you want the country to go. But and most of the time too, we assume that those in power have the capacity to understand the issues, they have the capacity to put forth policies and agendas that will address those issues. We may be surprised that that is not the case. And this is why sometimes we expect our institutions to become the storming ground for those kind of new ideas, for those ideas, and don't just wait for government, which is based on maybe politicking, people do elections and all of that, and then we expect those people to become our saviors. So the point I'm making is competent people like the like of Mr. Zuo, like Alex, like Dennis, those of you in your various capacity and your professions, you should not be silent. Constantly put those things forward. And we also expect like the University of Liberia, the Cotton University, those places will become the breeding ground for research so that they can also put forth those ideas that this is what needs to be done. And if any government or anybody that doesn't do it, it's not going to succeed. I think it should be the breeding ground
The
for
university.
ideas, for the
Great idea.
generation of ideas.
Okay,
So
Mr.
that
Dave.
maybe
Let me go
government
back to
can
the
act
caller
as a
because let me go back to the caller if he has any feedback on what was just said. Is he still on, Mr. Dennis?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just keep it very short,
What I
30
was
minutes,
saying,
so that everyone can have a chance to, So any further question or comment, just let us know, then we can go around again.
okay.
Thank you for your contribution, by the way.
So basically right. So basically what I was saying is that nowadays, there's this ubiquity of technology in the United States. Most people don't know it, that Apple and most of the American companies, Cisco systems, they became successful thanks to the American government. Like I gave an example, the GPS system. That's an American military thing that they took and gave it to the various companies like Apple and Google and all that. They make money off it. So government has a part to play. I understand what the gentleman was saying, but the regulations, they pretty much develop the regulatory field. Yeah, that's fine. But another thing is being quick, and I'll be quick on this, with this government and the past government as well. I mean, for instance, little things like visa on arrival. I had a friend Indian friend he's from the States, but he was in India. He wanted to go to Liberia, but he needed his visa. And this guy said he had to fly all the way, and this is a businessman, he had to fly all the way to Brussels, to Brussels in Belgium, just to get a visa to go to Liberia. So we don't have that. Just lately, I think last week, the Ease of Doing Business, they published that 2020 report. Once again, we all the way at the bottom of the ladder, 175. We're there with countries that experiencing war like Afghanistan, Syria, and those sort of things. We have to be very. I mean, we have a country 300 miles of sun-kissed beaches, the largest virgin forest in Africa. I mean, West Africa. Flora and fauna to die for us. Still, we're having this conversation that we've been having the last 10, 20 years plus. we, you know,
Okay. So,
that's why
Mr. Caller, again, I just gotta. Yes, I just like to let my panelists go for. What's your name again, sir? I hate to. What is your name again,
just
sir?
call me Monu.
Mr. Monu, what's your background, by the way? What's your background?
Well, I'm a small business owner. I'm an entrepreneur in Las Vegas. My company provides quality services to the pharmaceutical companies.
Excellent. Would you like to?
So
we want to invite you on the business forum. So again, we appreciate you calling, but we'd like you in the future contact us so you can be a part of the panelists, so we can get more input. It seems to be in the business and the entrepreneurial, and that's what Liberia needs. But let me go to Mr. King. He's been absent for a little bit. And Mr. Dennis, if you got any calls or any comments, please interrupt me. Mr. King,
yes,
you do.
Okay, Mr. Juice, I'll take it offline, okay? Because I don't want to dominate the
Yeah. I just want to give my panelists more time because we should be finishing here by 4:25, 4:30 at the latest. But you're always welcome. This is a platform for all Liberian business and economists. So please, reach out and join the panel so we can discuss changes. Mr. King, you've been absent. We've been talking a lot of substantive issues.
I haven't been absent. I've been on. I've been hearing everything. So
what's your input? You got 1.5 minutes. Give us what your conclusion as we conclude. Again, you're watching the Business Economic Forum.
Sure, not a problem. Do you the one thing? A couple of things. Just kind of highlight. Central Bank of Liberia issues bills. It costs $20 for the bill, and they do it at 7% interest rate. Right now, with the inflation and everything like that, I don't know if 7% return split every 6 months. I don't know if that's an incentive for people to really bring money into the country or put money into our banks. So I think they gotta look at that. The other thing is, from what the caller said, we Liberians are the ones responsible for our economy. We are the ones responsible, the ones in the diaspora. We have to look at ways where our government can back some bonds that we can buy in, that then money, US dollars, can begin to flow back into that country. There's a lot of issues with that. And all of us in Liberia, one thing I noticed that's very common, we're very good at articulating the problem. But when it comes time to putting forth a focused solution, that's where it has continuously eluded us. So we have to do better with that. We can't wait on government. The government right now, even if they wanted to, they do not have any money. But can they do policies? Yes, they can do policies that can generate income. But even if they wanted to right now, they are not in any position to stimulate the economy through lending, because they're just in a very tough spot. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jai, if there's any caller or any comments, can you read it again? You listen to the business.
Right. We just want to encourage our viewers to check us out on YouTube and subscribe to our videos. By subscribing, you're going to be able to watch any show anytime we go live, or anytime we post anything on YouTube. You're going to be watching. We have hundreds of videos. We have discussed variety of topics, and so if you want to benefit, and we surely want you to, please go on YouTube, click on the subscribe button, and you're going to be able to get us.
Okay.
Also, I want to invite all singles and couples. There's a singles and couples date night, year-end Thanksgiving ball is happening at in Atlanta here, Veronica's place. That's a Veronica restaurant. That's in 4108 Covington Highway. That's a Veronica's Event Hall, Suite D. So on Saturday, that's December 23rd, there's going to be a single and couples date night. and you're going to have the best comedian of our time, MC Malarito will be there. Counselor Mr. and Mrs. J. Gaylor will be there. And a couple $25, single $15. Once again, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Focus on Liberia, and you'll be a part of the wonderful work that people at Focus on Liberia are doing. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you. So, okay, as we conclude our discussion for today, again, discussing diaspora current event, there were some new appointments that were made, particularly the central bank governor. Does anyone have any insight at Mr. Zuo? Do you know this guy? What do you think of him? Again, I will reserve my opinion, give the guy a chance, let him tell us who he is, let him tell us his policy. But does anyone have any kind of knowledge about our next central bank governor? Mr. Zuo, I'll start with you.
I know the governor designate. I have followed social media, and people have come up with some comment, and I've gone his profile. Says he did political science and public administration. And I think that for now, until we can hear from him, the only thing that which I think is a very good question, is that it's about time that Liberian government take hold of the monetary side of the economy, because realistically, monetary sector actually has monetary policy has shorter lag. I mean, the impact is very faster than that of the fiscal side. So anything that is done from the central bank perspective, the impact is quick to hit the economy. If today the bank decided, okay, because of the challenges that we are having now in terms of the exchange rate, we are now going to intervene immediately. It sends signal to even say the exchange route across Monrovia. It sends signal to other business owners who they will have some expectation, and there will be some speculation that will also impact the exchange rate. If they say today they are going to do something about interest rate, we can do that without going through legislation, like the way taxation issue is, you have to go through legislation before acting. So it's something that they need leadership, responsible leadership at this time. It's quite interesting that Liberia, in 2-year period, we have had, in fact, this is the third governor in 2 years. You know, that itself is so challenging for a small economy that is already having some difficulty. So it's a confident crisis. First governor, second governor, this is third governor in 2 years. That
okay, thank you very much.
The governor will be
okay. Thank you again, Mr. Zu. I think we've done a show on the central bank. I think we did 2 or 3 shows, Dennis, on central bank. Again, if you subscribe, you can go on YouTube and watch those shows, so you have a lot of views and upvotes. Does anyone know anything about this gentleman who would be presiding over the Liberian economy, Liberian currency, or is he just came from the woodwork? Nobody knows who he is.
No, my question to you all is, I mean, I read his profile, you know, as Mr. Zuo said, his first degree is in political science, and his graduate degree is in public administration. He worked in a couple of banks as in compliance. So I go back to you. What do you look for in a central bank governor?
I'll turn that question first to Mr. Zuo. You're the economist. What do you think the ideal central bank governor should be? What should be his credentials or his experience?
I think they are creating the central bank in terms of the criteria used. There are 10 or 11 criteria there, and from all fairness, he has in terms of credential, academic credential, he has something to do with public policy, and it shows that he worked with a bank before. So what is very much important here is that I don't know the vetting committee. I cannot speak for the vetting committee. But one good thing that is very much important now with the situation that Liberia is going through now is about leadership. a good manager who will be in a position to know how to look at the risks in the economy, how to look at the policy implementation. Annually, there's supposed to be a monetary stand, a monetary policy for the country and how it functions. And the person should be in a position to take the right decision and manage it better. So we hope that he's been a very good manager. I always tell myself that I don't want to be looking at my experience in America more as a yardstick to look at performance in Liberia or in Africa, because this is a corporate America. The structure is set and a lot of things and policy, everything, guidelines, everything set in place. But you go into a system that even the guidelines are written, but the implementation or enforcement have been a challenge. So going to such system, you have to go with caution, with a commitment and dedication to change things around. And you have to be a team builder. So I hope you will be in a position to build a team that can transform the economy, and I wish him well.
Okay, Mr. Dave Ja, what's your view on it? On this, I know you're not a business or finance or economist, but do you think this is the right, person for the job, just based on what you've read, or?
I didn't. Yes, I read something, but as you guys know, I don't know what the credentials have to be, but has Mr. Zuo said that sometimes folks go back to Liberia and say, oh, I've worked in this bank, I've worked at this place, and this is it. It's not a bad thing to have those kind of credentials. I myself, I'm studying psychology here. And if I go back to Liberia today, I do not expect to execute my psychology in a way that I study it here. I first have to understand the system in Liberia, the cultures, the values, what is considered an illness, what is considered a part of our system, our practices. So we have to, I think part of the problem we have had in Liberia is that we have these prefabricated ideas. We have these prefabricated solutions, and we take them back, or we take them to the other parts of Liberia and we expect them to work. So I study psychology. If I go back home, I still need to learn the system, adapt to it in a way that I can impact it, but at the same time, taking into consideration the people, their culture, their values, their belief system, and all of that, and how I can incorporate them. So having a corporate job in America, yes, it prepares you, but you should also be willing to learn, and learn socially, learn politically, learn even economically, and see. So I wish him the best. I hope he does a very good job. As we all know, if the economies, if the financial institutions of the country go well, people will do better. And this is why, with my note, is that the Liberian government, or everybody, needs to have a psychologist in their lives, because that's what we do, to direct the mind, the emotions, and the behavior, so that they can be in synchrony with even policies that will improve the well-being of people. So that's all I can say. Thank you. Yeah.
Wonderful. So his name is Aloysius Talu, or Tali.
Yeah, Talu.
Talu. Okay, he's the new. I just reading the front page article by Redmond Sear. So again, a lot of challenges as we come to the conclusion. There's a report from the international media. Liberia is running out of cash at the ATM machine. There's been some concession, I think, concession problems, with one concession being awarded to one company and another. So again, we hear nothing but, we're not hearing as much positive news from that. Let us be frank with ourselves.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. King?
look, let's be honest here. Okay, you have to ask yourself this question once again. Why is Fonderson not accepting that position? The one of the candidates that's mentioned in the article that ran Baker Tilly, the accounting firm. Why, he's, of course, the way you turn down certain jobs, you say you're kind of busy, right? It's like, hey, you have so much on your plate. I don't say that as criticism, but I say that as why, to ask the critical analysis reason why. Now, in Liberia right now, we have no, and I will continue to maybe say this. Central bank is not the place to stimulate the economy. Okay, central bank does not stimulate the economy. Central bank role is to maybe provide some kind of stability in the sense that investors can feel that, okay, this country is running in a somewhat normal way, to instill investor confidence that at least there's a financial system. So if we're looking at central bank and the expectation is that this new governor will some way stimulate the economy, that's not going to be there. IMF is in Liberia. And when IMF comes to Liberia, IMF is not looking to grow the economy. What IMF doing is simply looking to establish good bureaucracies and good policies to help your country manage money. Now, that may sound good to a few people, but right now for a lot of Liberians, their bread and butter every day, they are suffering. They are suffering. And even when they leave, when IMF leave, you're still going to face with the challenge of how do you grow your economy. So we are in very dire situations in Liberia. It's I'm sorry to say this, but until there's a huge involvement and huge look at the diaspora, one of your largest employment base, there's nothing that you're telling for the Liberian that's there today that's going to change his situation in the next 6 months. And according to what our psychologist says, we're just going to be digging ourselves in a hole. And now we have more psychological scars of citizens, that we have to then deal with. We need to look at this thing for what it is, and these are not stimulating our economy. And it's so painful to kind of watch, but that's where we are.
Okay, I disagree on the point of the central bank not being the one to stimulate the economy, but we can discuss that in the next show. Again, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you're watching the Liberian Business Economic Forum, the only premier forum for discussing business and economics by the finest Liberian economists, financial analysts, economic psychologists, media psychologists, you name it. So again, it's been a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Again, thank you to the panelists. I'm going to give you guys the last word. Tell us what's your view of Liberia, where do you want to see Liberia, and what's your prescription? I will start with our resident psychologist. So again, I know when I go to see my shrink, he has a prescription form. So please, you're the shrink for Liberia right now. What's the prescription? Write it down. Let us know it. What should we do? Put our hands up, cry to the higher power, run for help. Please tell us, what can we do as we close?
Well, I will continue to encourage Liberians to dialogue, have consultation with people. Nobody knows it all. Reach out. There are some folks somewhere that have some good ideas. Sit around and brainstorm and see which direction the country is going to go. Liberia has to survive. We have to provide for the people. We have to provide for the nation. And in order for this nation to survive, people in decision-making places have to be humble. They have to talk, to dialogue, to seek out for help, because no one person has the answer. My heart is also in Liberia because I have family there. I was born there and raised in Liberia. So I want the country to succeed. And thank you so much, guys, for allowing me to be on your show tonight. I appreciate it, and I look forward to more interactions.
Thank you, Doc.
I'm
Okay,
not a
Mr. You will be soon. So, yeah, okay. So, Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
please, what's your last word? What's your prescription for Liberia? What will you do today? If you're
Well, to what the gentleman just mentioned, and he had to say that he's not a doctor, because there's serious implication if you come on the show within the psychological practice. So I know he had to put that disclaimer out there.
The doctor in waiting. Doctor in waiting.
Yeah. So one of the disclaimer out there is that this is our opinion. Of course, we're not telling anybody to go and invest in Liberia right now or not invest. For someone to do that, please seek your financial advisor. My thing right now is, we as Liberians, we have to take a stand. We have to get in there, roll up our sleeves, and our government, they're so close and yet so far. What I mean by that is their current policies are not policies that provide incentives for us to put our money in Liberia compared to the competitor. And they really need to take a look at that, because they're so close, but then again, they can be so far. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Zua, I think he had a prior engagement, so I don't think he'll be giving any closing comment. If he is, please let me know. But again, well, I'm just trusting the higher power, Mr. Ja, that anything can happen, and we hope for the best. Again, thank you for joining us so long, and we'll see you next week for another interesting discussion on Liberia Business and Economic Forum. It's all up to you, Mr. Dennis.
Thank you.
You can take it away, Mr. Dennis.
Continue. African in the diaspora, our collaboration and our unity to create a business investment for every year to African American millennials. So we're going to use the African American element into our discussion when we talk about African immigrant unity and collaboration. In fact, all Blacks. So we'll be speaking with Davisha Johnson tomorrow, just to introduce that and see how we can. She can probably help take those investors to Liberia. So please join us tomorrow. The Business and Economic Forum is going to continue this every Saturday at 3 o'clock, and we don't want you to miss that. So from all of us here at Focus on Liberia, again, thank you. Thanks to all our people on. And before I leave, let me read this one comment from Facebook from Mr. Sylvester Luo at Africa New Voice. He said one of Liberia's biggest problems is that they lack system and qualified personnel who understand the mindset of the people. Based on history, just like you guys stated earlier, there is nothing in our history that we can relate success to. There are too many history of failure. Well, that's his opinion. We can, but we're closing now, so I won't give you the opportunity to chime in. But I will thank you, gentlemen, for always being here. This is the only economic and business forum. You don't find it anywhere else. And as we have just discussed, unfortunately, at this point in our history, the focus is on politics and a whole lot of other things and not economics. But our goal here is to be able to make so much noise that everybody hear us that it's all economics and economics. Thank you, guys. Good night. Enjoy your weekend, and God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.